Detach. You know, all of us have a certain detach palate-wise with certain wines. I.e., say there could be a wine that I friggin' like, I'm like, yeah, I just don't get it. I'm not down with it. And the rest of the world can look at me and be like, you friggin' idiot. Like, that wine is one of the greatest wines in the history of mankind, and you're a moron. And then I have to be like, all right, well, I mean, I don't get it, but, you know, if the rest of the world thinks it's good, then yeah, that's cool. And every palate has a detach, because palates are like fingerprints. They're all different. And you know, the funny thing is, I think, and I love Jeb Dunnick. He's one of my favorite guys in the industry. Great palate, great Rhone palate. But there's a detach here that he has with Santa-Duc, and I can't quite figure it out yet, because I have no idea what he's tasting when he tastes the wines. And he might taste them in a weird time during the élevage. You know, the kid Benjamin, he doesn't destem its whole cluster. There could be some stuff going on, but man, what I taste in the finished bottle from Santa-Duc is one of the greatest wines being produced today in the Rhone Valley. And I think Jeb hits him at a funny time or something, because a few other folks kind of, you know, they're kind of in and out on it. And I think this is a producer that actually takes some thought, some time, multiple tastings. What Benjamin Gras is doing at Santa-Duc right now is a little unprecedented, I think, within, you know, what's happening even within the Rhone Valley with the next generation taking over. I mean, guys push boundaries. When the next generation comes in, they want to push boundaries. Always a learning curve. You know, the early learning curve with Benjamin was, okay, I get it that you like Rias and you want to do this and that and da-da-da-da-da, but it's a very particular style, it's a very particular way of doing things. Do you have the soils to do that? And if not, how are you going to kind of achieve that goal with the soils you do have? And like anybody else, Ben needs time. He needs to learn. We saw very early on, even like 2016, 2017 vintage, we saw these flashes of greatness from Benjamin Gras. Completely different wines than what his dad Yves did here at Domaine Santa-Duc, one of the most treasured and historic estates in Gigondas. And we knew new stuff was brewing and things were different. So every year we're tasting. And what happened is, you know, in the first few years, like 1 out of 4 wines would be like, damn, Tris, you taste that? Like, holy shenanigans. And then the other 3 wines would be like, hey, you know, okay, yeah, working. And then like 2 years later, it'd be like, 2 of the wines would be like, whoa, son of a bitch, damn. Like, bam, are we vibing this? And it's like, yeah, Jesus, good Lord. And now he's doing it like all the time on a consistent basis. And even at a vintage like 21, which I must say was an inconsistent vintage in the Southern Rhone Valley, more inconsistent in Chateauneuf actually than in Gigondas. Gigondas made much more interesting wines than Chateauneuf, I think, in the 21 vintage. And what Benjamin Gras, the young Benjamin Gras, delivered with his 21 Clos Derrière Vieille is Derrière, I say it. Oh, God, yes! One of the top wines of the vintage. Okay, so here's the deal. Benjamin's wines can be a little difficult at first. He's whole cluster. He's organic biodynamic grown. He is going for a more elegant style of Gigondas than what his father did. His father was 90s. I'm not going to say Parker, because that's discrediting what Parker did for the wine industry. 90s, uber concentrated, pedal to the metal, heavy oak, Bobby Catcher catalog, style of wines that actually were also really, really great. I mean, I drank a ton of Santa-Duc Gigondas in the 90s. One of the greatest producers. Top vineyards, top everything. Benjamin came in, did something different. Pulling back, harvesting probably a little earlier, but not too early. Remember this. Remember all you kids out there that want to make your elegant wines. You can harvest earlier, but don't harvest too early. Do not make lemonade out of beautiful mandarin oranges. Don't do it, okay? He doesn't. For the élevage, we're talking about Stockinger Foudre, so he's getting completely away from the new oak that dominated his father's cuvées at Santa-Duc and moving towards Stockinger Foudre, as well as a certain amount of the wine done in amphora. And this all sounds like awesome hipster, but the results are what matter. And 80% of the time, the cats doing this are doing it for the mantra of it. And I think Benjamin's actually doing it for the results. Benjamin knows what great wine is. Benjamin worked at Domaine de la Romanée-Conti and Vega Sicilia. He knows. So it's merely about instituting what he's learned into the vineyards of his family's property, and he's done it. This is the Clos Derrière Vieille, which is exactly, if you speak Francais, is exactly what the name implies. This is a fabulous vineyard behind the old village, namely behind the original Hospice de Gigondas. So up on the hill, we have great elevation. We have 350 meter, that's about 1,000 foot for you and me, American people. Elevation up in these vineyards, and they're terraced vineyards, and it's 80% Grenache, 10% Syrah, 10% Mourvedre, and the Syrah is growing on the moister terraces. I can't say moist. That's growing on the damper on the terraces, and then the 10% Mourvedre is growing on the stonier terraces, and the Grenache is everywhere in the middle. Old vines, but not ancient vines. We're talking about an average vine age of 40 plus, which in this neck of the Rhone Valley is like, yeah, those are pretty nice little vines you got there, buddy. But they're not like old, you know what I mean? And again, all of this picked at perfect ripeness and dumped into 36 hectoliter Stockinger Foudre. Stockinger's fancy, by the way. Those are very fancy barrels. He's the guy, the king of the large barrels. So he makes the best large barrels on the planet. Although Torrenso and a couple other folks would disagree, but anyway, everybody uses them and they're super cool. The key thing here is giving this wine a moment. Now, unfortunately, I only opened it about 20 minutes before video time, which one of the issues with wines that are whole cluster, you can have a bit of that green savory thing in the aromatics. So you really, unfortunately, you have to work a little bit with wines that are whole cluster for the most part. Romanée-Conti is whole cluster. Domaine Dujac's whole cluster. And a lot of people, the whole cluster wines are wines that require an more extended bottle aging. And if you do open them sooner, they require a little more time, open, maybe a decant, maybe a swift decant, half hour before serving. Because what happens is those savory characters with air will integrate into the wine, especially with Grenache, and we're getting technical here, sorry guys, but since Grenache is a what we call an oxidative grape variety, this wine will aerate faster and go vertical, and the whole cluster will help push this wine vertical and create this like fabulous, racy yet richly expressive drinking experience. I don't know how else to put it. I think I said it the right way without being too nerdy about it. Sorry if I got nerdy, but yes, that's kind of what happens with this wine. So, sorry, a little Christopher Walken. That's what happens with this wine. Sorry, not intentional. Although I did watch the Continental skit again this weekend. Too good. Explaining to my kids about Christopher Walken, and so, no, don't go. No. Get ready. This is the new Gigondas. And if you don't, like Jeb, I implore you, buy a bottle from us after you watch the video today. Buy another bottle, take it home, and you're going to be like, yeah, all right. Yeah, sorry. Because none of us are perfect, and everybody's palate is different. And I've been tasting, drinking thousands of Rhone wines professionally since 1991. And I can tell you that this wine goes in the proper direction it needs to for the weight that it has. If people talk about a true Burgundian expression of Grenache in the Rhone Valley, if people talk about, oh, I want to be like Rice, blah, 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 there are very few people that have kind of figured out the cheat code for that. And I think Benjamin Gras is one of those guys that is figuring out the cheat code, if not already figured it out. This is, to me, this is about the wine of the 2021 vintage in Gigondas. I've had a bunch. This is about as good as it gets, man. And this was 87, 89 from Jeb. I mean, he caught it on a bad day, obviously. But I think the real note to look at is the 94 to 96 point barrel score from the dearly departed Josh Reynolds, who had a hell of a Rhone palate as well. And at the end of his taste, he talks about this winery must be counted among the handful of great producers in Gigondas. And I would say yes. I'd say that 94 to 96 score with that verbiage attached to the end is a little more apropos for this wine. Organic wine, biodynamically grown, whole cluster. There's good days and I'm sure there's bad days for this wine, right? But in the end, they're all going to be good days if you let the wine get to where it's going to go. And what I can tell you right now is in front of this camera with this glass in front of me, today was a good day. Man, this shit is silky. It's polished, demure. I mean, it is really kick-ass wine. Good tangy, but the right tangy. Yeah, there's people trying to do this, but they can't. I'm sure it pisses them off. If they drink a bottle of this, they're gonna be really pissed off. Fabulous, fabulous wine from Benjamin Gras. Watch out for this kid. He is kicking ass and taking names. Gorgeous, gorgeous wine. What a treat to sell it. You should buy this. Like, seriously, wait, in case you didn't already notice that we're kind of into it. It's really good.